Hi there, this is Ruth Royal from Youth Pledge for Employers, and I'm really happy to be talking to Anna Ryan, who is Operations Manager at Phoenix Events East today. Hi Anna, lovely to see you.
Hi Ruth, good to see you too.
So first of all, Anna, tell us a little bit about what Phoenix Events East does.
So we're a security and events company. So
Right.
we do everything from security, kind of as you would expect, kind of security guarding, all the way through to any form of event staff you can really think of. So that's
Wow.
stewarding, marshals, event staff, car parkers. That is a really, really varied job role. Yeah, we do an awful lot of different things.
Wow. I mean, so I guess then people maybe need sort of different skills to do different sorts of jobs. Would you tell us a bit about the sort of different roles that people do and what skills they've got?
Yeah, absolutely. So if somebody wanted to join us, for example, as a security guard, then there is a certain level of training that you have to do that. So you have to have something called your SIA license.
Right.
So that is a formal qualification that you go through, and you have to pass a couple of exams.
Right.
And then you apply for the badge, and you will receive that a few weeks later. There are different levels to it as well. So there are different types of SIA badges. There's all sorts of different ones. There's CCTV. There's one called static guarding. Then there's door supervisor, close protection, loads and loads and loads of different ones.
That's amazing.
The main one that we have in kind of the event sector is door staff. And basically what that qualifies you to do is guard licensed premises, so premises that serve alcohol. And yeah, so if you wanted to go in as a security guard, then you would need some kind of SIA license. On the other hand, if you wanted to come in as a steward or a marshal, excuse me, I've got a pop-up on my laptop, sorry.
No worries.
If you wanted to come up as a steward or a marshal, then you wouldn't need the SIA license for that. Obviously, if you did get into the industry and it ended up being something that you really liked and you wanted to go forward with, then there would always be scope for you to sort of move on and get your SIA license later. But yeah, to be a marshal or a steward, there are sort of different levels of training that we suggest our marshals and stewards to take, but that's something that we do sort of with them through the company. So that's NVQs in crowd safety and crowd management, all that stuff. For some sites as well, given the nature of the industry that we work in, there's sort of counter-terrorism training.
Oh my gosh.
Of course, because
it's so detailed, isn't it?
I know. Well, of course, if you're working at a public event, you never really know what you're going to encounter. So, of course, the SIA license covers you for most things, and that will train you in how to deal with certain situations. But if you are just a steward or a marshal at a public event, then you still never know what you're going to encounter. So sometimes that kind of training, be it crowd management, counter-terrorism, anything like that, it's really useful to have, just so that you feel in yourself that you're covered and you're able to deal with something.
Yeah.
And from an employer's point of view, knowing that our staff are capable of dealing with that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess alongside all those hard skills that we've sort of talked about, like the different sorts of qualifications you can do, you probably need some really good soft skills as well, don't you? Thinking about it, what sort of soft skills might you need?
Absolutely. So I always say to people with stewarding and marshalling especially, it's one of those jobs where you do need to be the right person for the role.
Right.
Because you've got to be able to deal with the public first and foremost. That's a massive, massive part of the job. And the general public can be tricky sometimes.
Challenging,
yeah. So you've got to be able to communicate very, very well. You've got to be able to keep calm under pressure. You've got to be adaptable, so you can deal with situations as and when they come up. You've got to be friendly, you've got to be polite, and above all, I would say you have to be approachable.
Right, yeah.
You know, especially with the image that our company especially wants to promote at the events that we go to. We want people to see our staff and think, if I have a problem, I can go to that person.
Yeah, so really approachable.
Absolutely, 100%.
Gosh, that's so interesting, isn't it? About sort of how layered it is in terms of like all the different skills and the kind of different levels of things that you can do. Do you also sort of like the format of the work? I know this sounds like a really odd thing to say, but probably important to reflect on as well, that actually you might be outdoors, you might be sort of working evenings. I don't know, is there sort of stuff like that as well?
Yeah, definitely. So obviously, I'm sure it comes no surprise to anyone that in an industry like the event sector, things get busier towards summer. So,
Yeah.
you know, sort of past, well, about this time now, really, this is kind of, we're now kind of a few weeks into our event season. And that will just sort of pick up continually from there.
Wow.
And it gets crazy busy in the summer, which is the best time because it's, you know, it's lovely to have all that going on. But yeah, there is definitely weekend work. There can definitely be evening work as well, just because, you know, events don't fall Monday to Friday,
Yeah.
9 to 5 all the time. You know, obviously there is the exception every now and again. But yeah, it definitely is a role for somebody who is, like I say, adaptable, willing to work weekends, willing to work evenings. But in our company, we're very, very lucky that with the work we have, we are capable most of the time to accommodate what our staff want.
Oh, that's
Um,
fantastic.
so if they, for any reason, you know, if weekends or evenings are going to be a problem, it's not like there isn't work in the week. It's
Yeah.
just if an individual came to me and they had all the time in the week free, there would be more to give them.
Yeah.
Weekends and
No, that
evenings
makes
in
a
the
lot of
summer
sense.
mainly.
Do you think as well that it sounds to me like it's probably a really varied job in terms of what, you know, the sorts of different things that you deal with?
Oh, massively, hugely. When I came into the job, it was sort of one of the first things that struck me, because it's not the kind of thing that I think people think of first when they're, you know, maybe looking for work or anything like that. It's the
Yeah.
kind of thing, stewarding and marshalling especially, is the kind of thing that I think many people don't consider until it is brought to them. So, you know, the amount of people I've
Yeah.
had who say, oh, my friend was an event steward, or my friend worked at a festival, or, you know, my sister did some event work. But then actually, once you get into it, you do realize you could be doing so many different things, and so many different events. Because, you know,
Yeah.
once you are in that industry where you're working at events, there is no limit to the amount of events that you could be doing, you know.
Yeah, and I bet you get all different sorts of people at all different types of events as well, which must give like an extra dimension. That's so fascinating. It's so interesting talking to you to find out more about this because, like you say, it's not, you know, sort of not something you think about in detail like that as a sector. It's really, really fascinating. How did you end up in your job?
So my story is quite interesting. I was actually working at an event,
Right.
as not really as event staff. It was more as kind of a sort of a performance actor, to be honest.
Right. Wow.
And Phoenix Events had the contract for security and stewarding for the event that I was working at.
Right.
And where I was positioned, I was near some of the staff. So sort of when it would go quiet, I got chatting to them, asking about what they do, because like I say, marshalling, stewarding, security, it was not anything that I'd really thought
Yeah.
about or considered. And I was chatting to these guys and they were so lovely. And then I met the director, Adam, at that event. And it all kind of went from there, to be honest. Adam and I got on really, really well. I
Wow.
started chatting with him and some of the other employees as well. And yeah, before you know it, I was doing little odd bits here and there for Adam, and it all kind of went from there, really.
Oh, and I also think that's such a good message, isn't it? Because I think sometimes when you're young, it's really easy to assume that you can feel like you've got to pick one thing and you're going to do that one thing forever and ever. But actually,
Absolutely.
often it's about doing different things and they take you in different directions and you take the opportunities that come up. I wondered, Anna, just to sort of end on, if you were to go back and have a conversation with your younger self, like starting out in the world of careers, what piece of careers advice do you think you'd give yourself?
Oh, wow. I think I would say, like what you've just said, don't feel tied to one thing, especially when you're young, especially when you don't necessarily know exactly what you want to do yet. Obviously, I completely understand people have jobs because they need them, and
Yeah.
it's very easy once you have that stability sometimes to feel like you've got it now and you've got to stay there. Don't feel tied to it. If there's an opportunity for you to take the leap, work it out later,
Yeah.
because you never know how exciting it could lead to. I mean, the job that I was in, my full-time job that I had when I was doing this performance thing where I met the Phoenix team, it was awful. It was in a school. I was basically a teaching assistant. It, very rewarding job, but just absolutely not for me. But I felt tied to it. I felt like I didn't have a choice, and that I was probably going to be there for years because I didn't know how to leave. And it wasn't until that I decided to take that jump that I ended up where I am now, and I am much, much happier, and I'm so glad that I did it. So my advice would be, don't feel tied to what you're doing. Take the leap. Grab every opportunity you can, especially while you're young.
That is just fantastic advice. Anna, thank you so much for your time. It's been lovely to meet you today.
You too.